so Nicolai, could you describe yourself and ethical economy?
Yeah. So my name is Nicolai Peitersen, or Peitersen, if you were to be correct. And I'm the founder and CEO of a company called the Ethical Economy Limited. Sorry. And there's a book coming out this year, hopefully, called The Ethical Economy through Columbia University Press, trying to describe the trends we're seeing in the economy emerging as such. And the business ethical economy is a online tool for stakeholder engagement around the ethics of business. And ethics, we mean in a broad sense, in terms of relational values. So it's about what you as a business feel is important to you as an agent in society, but also to what the people inside and outside your company feel is important to them. And we believe that relational values is a key business factor, not only today but increasingly so in the future.
Okay. So, how do you see? A big question to start with. How do you see the world in 2050? And you can think about cities or transport, or maybe you want to think about the way people communicate, perhaps, and social media.
Yeah, I think what has been interesting the past probably 10 years is the spread of ICT and the internet and social media and social technologies, and I don't think that people are aware of the transformation it will bring, for both not only business but for society and politics as well. And one of the effects of the spread of ICT and social media is the empowerment of people's voice, which has several implications. One is that for the first time, basically in history, we know what people value. No, we didn't know that before. No, it would be set by the church in the old days, and then by the state, and latest by the financial market, right? But now we for the first time are actually able to capture what there's a sociologist that calls it a different order of worth. So we actually know what matters to people, what issues matters to people, and what they value as such. And this is one of the big challenges. And to answer the question about 2050, I think this is what 2050 have solved. Because today there is a let's call it disconnect between what people value and what our financial system and business and the local level is delivering to people. So the classical right now at the moment and debate is obviously the financial system and the economic system, in that sense that what we price today does not reflect the values of people. For example, with sustainability. So sustainability has become important, and people care about it, but it's not priced in to any asset at the moment. So in 2050, I think we have a people-centric society. Where because of the social technologies, we have been able to incorporate and align the values of people from a bottom-up perspective into the decision-making processes, whether political, corporate, or financial systems. So which will have profound impact on about everything. It means that suddenly sustainability, for example, would be priced in, on the financial markets. It would mean that businesses that don't value sustainability will get a backlash from people that value it much more directly than ever before. And I can give you examples on how that could happen. So the other aspect of what the other implication I mentioned the second implication of the spread of ICT and social technologies is not only that people are empowered to give voice, but also they are able to qualitatively and quantitatively value agents or businesses, for example. So there's a lot of one of the big spreads right now is obviously all the different buttons you can press, right? Like, or you can retweet, or you can start rate businesses on eBay. eBay is an open system, and the reason why it works is that you're rated as a buyer and as a seller, whether you're trustworthy and whether, I can't remember what the criteria, but they have a few criteria, and that's the only reason that eBay actually works, because without that there'll be no trust in the system. So and this, I think eBay is probably a good picture of where business in general are heading. What we in our book are calling social production, or which it is typically exemplified in open innovation and open business, open biology, all these new trends, or user-led innovation. I've used a bit of the terms being coined at the moment. No, I just lost the plot. Yeah. They all are dependent on the values that unite people in open networks to work together and allocate productive time into the network, and this is what we call productive publics. It's the big new trend. So we don't just have your stakeholders and the general public. Suddenly we have what we call the productive publics, that all systems are opening up and people are creating value in open systems without expecting anything in return other than reputation and recognition. But for these systems to work, you need trust, and trust is acquired in the future, and in 2015, peer-to-peer. So it's not generated from campaigns or from experts, stating that this company is trustworthy, and nor is it acquired through standards and code of conduct, which is the existing framework that we are creating trust in the market place. For example, within sustainability, very compliance focused trust mechanisms, whereas I think more in the future it will be a sentiment, and you have already the trend on the internet now, where you have all these sentiment crawlers, where you can capture the ethical sentiment of people around brands and their products, and there's a lot of attempts now on the marketplace to factor that in to asset pricing. So, for example, there's I can't remember the paper now, but there's been done research that shows a strong correlation between the sentiment on Twitter and then the share price of these companies. And this is not just a kind of like a accidental correlation, and this is what we're writing in our book. is that this is an expression of a general trend, whereby you could say the gold standard, of 2050 will be what we call the general sentiment, and that would be from which everything is valued, and that's a way to align value and wealth, and or what we prize and what people value in the everyday life. So sorry, it might have been with a big brush, but yeah, that's the idea.
That's great. And so, given that vision of kind of society or business that's much more, where relationships are much more based on values and trust, and that's much more core to the way that we relate to each other, what kind of challenges does that present for businesses, brands, and even for citizens as well?
Yeah.
Going to 2050.
It definitely it's definitely a big challenge, I think, for both sides, as you put it, both for citizens as well as for the brands themselves. Brands basically needs to develop from being corporate to become communitarian, or as I also put it, businesses have to constitute themselves as a part of the publics, and that means that they need to open up and not see stakeholders as stakeholders with a specific interest that they need to serve, but they need to find a values alignment with what we call stakeholders before, and basically also across stakeholders. It doesn't really make sense in the future to talk about consumers and suppliers and etc. It makes more sense to talk about. I mean, we call it again productive publics, because it's more about engaging people into the processes that you want them to be engaged in, no matter what they are, whether they are a consumer, whether they're a supplier. It's more about whether you have a values a proximity to each other, and if you have that, then people are willing to share ideas and engage in your business as such. And if you look at the value of businesses today, if you look at the market capitalization of businesses and then their book value, the market capitalization, or 2/3 of the market capitalization, is intangible. Only 1/3. I mean, in most business, in most sectors, 1/3 is tangible, which exemplifies. I mean, the fact that all that everything has been commoditized and everything has become general, part of the general intellect. Anyone can produce this recording device I have in front of me. Anyone in the world, I can go to the internet now, find the manuals to do it, find the parts, and then make a workshop with an engineer student of mine, and we develop the same device. So businesses competitive advantage doesn't lie in the production of material goods as such, but the scarce resource in the future is their reputation and their ability to matter to people and society. And this is also what lies behind the whole trend of social entrepreneurship and social business and etc. So that's part of what business needs to address.
And do you see there being opportunities out there for, given this change, for companies, brands, and how do they need to change the way that they relate?
I mean so there's massive opportunities. In that sense that both on the overall aspect that once you have a scarce resource called reputation, that means which is peer-to-peer based. That means that if you don't earn your street creds, so to speak, in the productive publics, that means you don't access talent. People that are really creating value out there are not particularly interested in working with you. They won't work for you so much more, but with you. You will actually pay more. Capital becomes more expensive for you because once the sentiment and the quantification of how well you perform, your reputation, the system, are part of the financial asset pricing models. Then the cost of capital is rising for you if you're not changing your business model. So that's on a meta level. But if you take innovation, what business needs to do is obviously create open innovation systems. So it's not about IP and intellectual property and private ownership, but it's more a model of you could say how to put it, of rent, you could say. So you create the assets in collaboration with everyone inside and outside the company that feels affinity to the cause of the business, and you don't own that asset, you co-own it with the productive publics, inside and outside your company, but you can attract rent from it. So there are beginning to come some interesting business models where, for example, it doesn't make sense anymore to sell shoes, but only you get consumers to subscribe, to make a subscription model. So they pay you whatever, £10 per month, and you go down to the store, get a pair of shoes, you use them. Once you're done, you go back and deliver it back, and then you pick another pair and leave again. And that pair of shoes that you hand back will then be recycled, obviously, and turn into a new pair of shoes. So there's no waste. The consumer is part of the production process and the recycling process, and it's not about ownership, but it's about being in a community, together. And that goes with everything. It goes with supply chains as well. Supply chains are being globalized and increasingly so complex, that it's impossible to control and create top-down systems for it. So the winning model with supply chains in the future is again an open model, where you allow people along the supply chain to engage, but also to set to basically make production decisions for you. So companies would have to give up control of production. Not totally, they're part of it, but they have to accept that if the people along the supply chain feel that there's better ways to produce your goods or your services, then you have to let them co-decide with you in it. So we're seeing a lot of changes in the governance models and production models and the business models around it.
Okay, yeah. That's great. And so I know this is a tricky one, but how do you think that marketing companies can bring this about and support this?
Yeah.
What's the role of the advertising and marketing industry?
Yeah. So I won't try to pretend that I know the industry very very well, but I can make some general comments on it. It's clear that the top-down approach of marketing advertising is dead, or will be dead. It will be, people, consumers, citizens are too empowered now to not know the truth about the brand, and just to give you another example, it's a matter. I mean, it's already coming, but a matter of becoming a standard. That when you do a purchasing, decision in a supermarket or anywhere, you will be immediately presented with the let's call it sentiment, as I used it before, of people inside and outside the company, of the actual performance of the company on certain values, say sustainability in this case. So, and that will have huge consequences for the way you market and advertise your business, because if obviously you claim that you're a green and sustainable company, but a supplier, not even a supplier, but a citizen in a Korea where one of your parts are being produced, know that part is not sustainable, and they might have different practices than what you claim, then obviously that will feed into a global information system that is presented to the consumer in the UK, down in Tesco, when they're purchasing. So you can't hide under the carpet anymore, and the reason why that hasn't been so apparent yet is because the services haven't become standardized yet. But I say it's within 3 to 5 years this will be common. So that means that for me, marketing, advertising companies should consider maybe a role of becoming almost a community leader and an authority, meaning that when they work with a brand, they have to educate the brand that it's new times, it's a new paradigm, and they need to make sure that the business have understood it and implemented it, because it will impact the advertising and the marketing company negatively if they do a campaign and suddenly stories that there's no alignment with the reality of the brand. It will impact the advertising and marketing company negatively in the future client relations. So they have an interest in suddenly becoming almost basically the new accounting firms. They have to make sure that the businesses comply, say, with the new paradigm, so that they can deliver effectful marketing.
That's great. Do you have any other thoughts?
That was perfect.
It's okay. Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It might